Welcome to our Partners in Education Luncheon for 2011, Recipes for Success. We're excited today about our speaker. Steve DeShazo works for Wiley ISD. Let me give you a little bit of information about Steve. He started working in restaurants in Mesquite as a teenager at the old J.J. Mugg. Some of you may have remembered that. After serving in the Navy for 5 years aboard a ship as a cook, he came back to start his own business, catering business, in the Mesquite area. After doing that several years, Steve has been involved with the Dallas Restaurant Association, Farmers Markets Friends, and several other food industries in the Dallas area. He got into education out of the corporate world because he wanted something that excited him and something that he could enjoy doing, and that's working with children. And that's what we look for in our partners. You're partners because you enjoy working with students or helping them. So Steve has been teaching 8 years at Wiley and has been recognized as the Wiley High School Teacher of the Year, Secondary Teacher of the Year, and HEB Grocery Company Excellence in Education statewide semifinalist, and the recent recipient of the 2009 Time Warner Cable National Teacher of the Year Award. Please help me welcome Steve DeShazo.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I want to recognize that mariachi band again. They did an outstanding job. Makes me want to say Viva Mexico. I go to Mexico a lot. I love being a teacher. It gives me lots of vacation time. 9 years ago, I got the job of a lifetime. Let me give you a little bit of background about where I came from. I grew up here in Dallas. My parents were both lawyers. My mom ended up being a Dallas County judge for 26 years. And I started working at restaurants when I was 15 years old. I made onion rings, pico de gallo, and guacamole for 40 hours a week all summer long. I never thought I'd wash the smell of onions off my hands. And then I graduated from Lake Highlands High School, went to Stephen F. Austin, barely made it through one semester. That didn't take. And so I left that and I moved up to Arkansas. My brother was a Domino's Pizza franchisee, so I ran one of his stores for him for about a year and a half. I knew education was important, but I was young. I wanted to live life. I wanted to experience lots of things. I thought that I knew what I wanted out of life, but at that age, who does, really? So I got married when I was 19 years old, and I joined the Navy, served on the USS Guadalcanal for 5 years, a big amphibious assault carrier. We carried a battalion of Marines, about 35 helicopters, and a whole bunch of sailors. Traveled around the world. And when I got out of the Navy, I landed a job here in Garland, actually, at a company called Best Brands. They're over at Plano and Miller Road, a big bakery manufacturing company. And I was a cost accountant there. And I went to school at night, worked my way through 3.5 years it took me to finish at Amber University, or Amberton they call it now. Over the course of a few years, I found myself as a controller, basically an accounting manager for a Syntex home subsidiary, a security alarm monitoring company. And it paid well, had a regular work hours and everything, but I knew something was missing. I'd kind of lost track of the passion that I have inside of myself. And so I quit my job and I started a catering company. And our third year in business, we did almost $500,000 in sales. The Dallas Mavericks were one of our big clients. We cooked for them all the time. Had a lot of other high-profile clients. Landed on a couple of shows on the Food Network. Did lots of the morning cooking shows, in the morning news, the Good Day Dallas and Good Morning Texas shows, and things were good, I was making money. I was having a lot of fun doing something that I love, but that's all I ever did was work. You know, I'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was in the kitchen by 6. I would work till 8 or 9 o'clock at night and forget about it during the holidays. You know, from Thanksgiving to New Year's, it was just full-on catering, just one after another, and my head was spinning. So I decided to sell the company and kind of try to do something else that offered a little more quality of life. And about that time, I heard about this job at Wiley High School. And, you know, it was a very interesting idea. You know, throughout my life, I had thought from time to time how much fun it would be to be a high school teacher, because I like hanging around with kids. I'm kind of a kid myself, you know. And so I kicked it around, and, I always wanted to be like a history teacher or an economics or government or business or something, but a high school culinary arts teacher, you know, I had never heard of it before. I thought it was very interesting, but then I asked myself, wait, how much does it pay? Well, I won't go into that today. But like I said, 9 years ago, I got the job of a lifetime. I have a unique perspective on teaching because I don't teach an academic subject. You know, I teach a CTE, an industry class. And a big part of my job is to mentor the kids that I teach. And try to give them some skills, you know, that they can use in a workplace. The skills that I teach are more than just cooking skills. You know, these are workplace skills. You know, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the restaurant industry, but it's oftentimes said that within the four walls of a restaurant exists parts of just about any industry out there, from manufacturing, human resources, design, marketing, personal, supervising people. But, you know, something that's unique to my job is that I'm teaching children. You know, they're kids. They look like grown-ups. You know, that mariachi band, I didn't know they were students until I heard somebody say it. You know, they look like big people, you know. But they're children. I've hung around teenagers for a big chunk of the last 8 years of my life. And it's still really hard to remember what it was like to be a teenager, to be a kid. You know, it's hard to, get into their mind and understand what these kids are going through. But I know that I was one. I know that I was a teenager. And in my students, you know, every day I see a lot of the same attitudes, a lot of the same opinions and desires that I had when I was a teenager. You know, often thinking that, you know, grown-ups don't know what it's like to be a teenager these days, that things are different now. Well, the teenage mind is still the same, I promise you. But times have changed. Times are changing. It's not that times have changed. Times are changing faster and faster and faster. Technology and our ever-shrinking world is making sure of that. The information age, I often think it's the over-information age. A little bit too much information is available to all of us, you know. But this presents really big challenges for us as educators. We live in a very fast-paced world, and you know it's kind of snuck up on us, you know, and us as adults have had the opportunity to slowly adapt over time to the way our world is. Those of us in this room right now can count ourselves lucky and fortunate. You know, the people in this room, we're like leaders. You know, we're like the top 20, you know, the 80-20 rule, you know, 20% of the people do 80% of the work kind of thing. You know, we gravitated to this room right now because we're achievers, you know, because we like to achieve. That's not everybody in the world. You know, people who have been in the classroom in this room can attest to that. You know, it's very difficult. But we've risen to the top, but imagine just for a moment if from a very young age, you are surrounded by seemingly insurmountable challenges. You watch your family break up. Your parents lose their jobs. They get into debt. You face foreclosure on your home. You watch someone succumb to addiction. These are the pressures that many of our young people face. And their children. So, it can be very daunting. Today's students are under ever-increasing pressure to make adult decisions at younger ages. Learning objectives in high school classes are more complex and at higher academic levels than ever before. The math classes that my seniors take are the classes I took in college. And I had a very hard time passing those classes as an adult college student. Someone who had gone off and served in the military and come back and, had a little more direction in my life. Today's students expected to learn these, high academic challenges with very little practical application of that learning. They don't understand how they're going to use that later. These are the facts that educators face every single day as we try to engage our students and motivate them to learn, to equip our children with knowledge and skills to boost their self-esteem and empower them to take control of their lives and go out in the world and do something. So, our schools have a huge challenge, a huge task to do, and we need support in the schools. That's where y'all come in. Schools need partners in business and industry to bridge the gap between acquisition of knowledge and application of skills. Um, 9 years ago, I got the job of a lifetime. Now, I was very fortunate to have a chance to work in industry before I came into the classroom. During my first year as a teacher, I relied on all my experience, and I put together a plan to build a robust school-to-career culinary arts program at Wiley High School. I reached out to many of the industry groups that I'd been involved with while I was in business. And those include the American Culinary Federation, Texas Chefs Association, the Greater Dallas Restaurant Association. These guys became my new best friends. The GDRA offered me a position on the board of directors. And I also joined the board of the Texas Restaurant Association Education Foundation. And these partnerships helped me build my program to what it is today. In fact, if we could